On a clear morning, the people of Earth looked up and saw nothing unusual, just the familiar blue sky stretching endlessly. But far beyond the atmosphere, something vast and silent had appeared without warning. A fleet of enormous ships, dark as shadows against the sun, suddenly blocked out the stars. They hung there, motionless, yet impossible to ignore. Governments around the world scrambled their radars and satellites, but the technology was overwhelmed. No one could identify the fleet's origin or purpose. Then came the message, cold and mechanical, broadcast in every known frequency, cutting through the chaos like a blade. Earth will be destroyed. No warnings will follow. No mercy will be given. For a moment, the world froze. Panic rippled through cities, towns, and villages alike. People dropped what they were doing, eyes glued to screens and windows, trying to comprehend the impossible. News stations repeated the message endlessly. Officials held emergency meetings behind closed doors, and social media erupted with fear and disbelief. But beneath the rising tide of terror, something else flickered. A stubborn ember of determination that refused to be snuffed out. Major cities went dark as the fleet's massive engines thrummed to life. The ships moved in deliberate formation, casting shadows that stretched across continents. People crowded into shelters, and the sky filled with the noise of emergency sirens and distant explosions. In New York, Commander Elena Vasquez stood on the rooftop of a command center, binoculars trained on the nearest alien ship. Her jaw tightened as she watched the alien symbols glowing softly on its hull. She had served in the Space Defense Forces for years, but never imagined facing something like this. "They're preparing to strike," she said, voice low but steady. Around her, military personnel scrambled to ready missiles and shields, but Elena knew their weapons were obsolete. The alien technology was on a different level entirely. At the same moment, in a small village in Siberia, a teenage boy named Yuri pressed his hands against the frosted glass of his family's home. His parents whispered prayers in a language lost to time, but Yuri's mind raced. He was a gamer, a dreamer. What chance did they have against a fleet this massive? Yet, as fear tightened like a vice around the world, stories of quiet courage began to surface. In London, a group of firefighters ignored orders to evacuate and instead helped stranded people reach safety. In Lagos, a scientist named Amina used her lab's equipment to scan the alien transmissions, hoping to find a weakness. The alien fleet's arrival shattered more than buildings. It shattered the illusion of safety. But it also revealed something fundamental about humanity. In the face of total destruction, people found a reason to fight. As the first salvo of plasma fire slammed into Tokyo, flattening skyscrapers and turning night into day, Elena's voice crackled over the radio. "This is not the end," she said. "This is the beginning of our fight." Across the globe, people listened. Deep inside the hull of one of the largest imperial ships, a figure watched the blue planet below with detached eyes. The commander of the fleet, an imposing figure wrapped in dark armor, regarded Earth not as a home, but as a challenge to be erased. "They do not know what awaits them," the commander said quietly, "but soon they will understand that resistance is meaningless." Back on Earth, however, no one was ready to give up. The Imperial fleet may have arrived with no warning and no mercy, but humanity's story was far from over. As fires burned and sirens wailed, countless hearts beat with defiance. The fight for Earth had begun. The sky above Tokyo burned with an eerie glow as the first Imperial strike tore through the city's skyline. Towers that had stood for centuries crumbled like paper, their shattered remains falling into streets flooded with chaos. Explosions echoed relentlessly, each one a grim reminder of the fleet's overwhelming power. Inside an underground bunker, Dr. Amina Okoro held her breath, watching the feeds from sensors she had hurriedly set up. Her hands trembled slightly, but her mind raced to analyze every fragment of data. The Empire's weapons were unlike anything Earth had faced before. Plasma blasts that burned hotter than any known fire, missiles that moved faster than sound. "We're not equipped for this," Amina whispered to herself. Not yet. Across the city, emergency services struggled to respond. Firefighters, police officers, and volunteers worked side by side to evacuate survivors, guiding terrified families through smoke and debris. But the destruction was swift and merciless. Communication lines were severed, and power grids collapsed, plunging entire districts into darkness. Amid the turmoil, a young pilot named Jin Lee climbed into his aging fighter jet, one of the few aircraft still operational. The craft creaked under his hands, a stark contrast to the sleek imperial warships looming overhead. Yet Jin's eyes burned with determination as he prepared for the impossible, to challenge the invaders with nothing but skill and courage. "Control, this is Falcon 1, he radioed. "I'm launching a sortie against the fleet, requesting permission to engage." Static answered. Jin took a deep breath and pushed the throttle forward. The jet roared as it tore into the sky, a single speck of defiance against the imperial colossus. Far from the front lines, in a small village in the Rocky Mountains, Elena Vasquez received the news of Tokyo's devastation. She clenched her fists, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on her shoulders. But instead of despair, something fierce sparked within her. "Not like this," she said aloud. "Not without a fight." She gathered her team, soldiers, engineers, and volunteers, and began planning. They couldn't hope to defeat the Empire with sheer force, but they could survive, regroup, and learn. As Jin's jet streaked toward the enemy fleet, the Imperial ships responded swiftly. Energy beams sliced through the atmosphere, targeting anything that dared approach. One by one, fighter jets fell, swallowed by fire. Jin's heart pounded as he maneuvered through a deadly barrage, narrowly evading a blast that tore through the sky where he had been seconds before. He managed to land a few hits on a smaller Imperial cruiser, disrupting its shield momentarily. The explosion rocked the ship, and for a brief moment, it wobbled, proof that the fleet was not invincible. But victory came at a cost. Jin's jet was critically damaged, and he was forced to eject over the Pacific Ocean. As he descended into the waves, his thoughts were clear. The fight was far from over. Back on land, resistance cells began to form. Civilians with no military training volunteered to protect their homes, while scientists like Amina shared their findings on the alien technology. Makeshift bases appeared in hidden places, underground tunnels, abandoned factories, mountain caves. Even as the Empire unleashed its fury, humanity adapted. Elena's voice reached across the airwaves, a beacon of hope. "We may be outgunned, but we are not outmatched. This is our planet, our home. We fight because we must." Meanwhile, the Empire's commander observed the chaos below with growing frustration. Earth's defenses were weaker than expected, but the Resistance's spirit was more stubborn than anticipated. "They are primitive, yet unpredictable," the commander murmured. "This will require adjustment." Plans for a deeper invasion began to form, but for the first time, a flicker of doubt appeared in the Imperial command. The first strike had shaken the planet, but it had also ignited something the Empire could not destroy, the human will to survive. The sun rose over a fractured world, casting long shadows across cities scarred by fire and destruction. The Imperial fleet still hung in orbit, a silent menace that reminded everyone on Earth that the fight was far from over. In a hidden command, center beneath the ruins of what once was a bustling metropolis, Elena Vasquez gathered the core of what was quickly becoming humanity's last hope. Around her sat a diverse group of people, soldiers, engineers, scientists, and civilians, each drawn by a shared determination to survive and fight back. "Elena, we're running low on supplies," said Marcus, a veteran soldier who had seen too many battles but never one like this. His voice was steady but carried a weight of exhaustion. "We can't hold out much longer without reinforcements." Elena nodded, eyes sharp despite the fatigue. "Then we adapt. That's what humans do. We find a way." Beside her, Amina, Okoro spread out blueprints and schematics of the alien technology they had managed to capture during a recent raid on a downed scout ship. The room buzzed with quiet urgency as her fingers traced lines of strange circuitry. "This technology is unlike anything on Earth," Amina explained. "It's advanced, but not invincible. There are patterns, weaknesses we can exploit." A murmur ran through the group. For the first time since the fleet's arrival, hope flickered. From the back, a young man stepped forward, Jin Lee, the pilot who had narrowly escaped the first strike. His eyes still held the fire of defiance. "I know their tactics," he said. "They rely on overwhelming force and precision, but they don't expect us to fight back like we do, unpredictable, desperate, and united." Elena studied Jin for a moment. "You have the skill we need. Will you lead a team to strike where it hurts?" Jin nodded without hesitation. "I'm ready." Outside the command center, the world was a different place than it had been just days before. Streets were empty, but not lifeless. People whispered stories of courage and loss, of small victories in shadowed corners. Neighborhoods organized patrols, sharing resources and information. In one apartment, a mother taught her children how to move silently and stay hidden. In a workshop, a group of teenagers assembled makeshift weapons, fueled by determination and a desire to protect their future. Across the globe, similar pockets of resistance formed, connected by a fragile but growing network. The Empire's invasion had fractured Earth, but it had also sparked a unity never before seen. Elena looked out the command center's window, eyes fixed on the distant silhouette of the Imperial fleet. She knew the road ahead would be brutal, but she believed in the strength of her people. "Humanity has survived countless challenges," she said softly. "This will be no different." As night fell, the resistance prepared for its first coordinated strike. Jin's team reviewed plans, balancing hope with caution. Their mission: to disrupt the Empire's supply lines and buy time for Earth's defenses to strengthen. Inside the Imperial fleet, the commander paced in a room filled with glowing star maps and data streams. Despite the cold logic that had brought the Empire to Earth, even he could not ignore the rising threat. "Humans are more than animals to be crushed," he murmured. "They are a problem, but also an opportunity." Back on Earth, the first shot of the resistance echoed through the darkness, a pulse of light, a strike against the invaders that signaled one clear message. Earth was fighting back. In the dim glow of their underground command center, the resistance gathered around a bank of monitors. The room was filled with tense silence, broken only by the steady hum of equipment and the occasional click of a keyboard. Amina Okoro's eyes scanned the latest data intercepted from the Imperial fleet's encrypted transmissions. "What are we looking at?" Elena asked, stepping closer. Amina took a deep breath. "These messages are disturbing. They reveal why the Empire is so intent on destroying Earth." The room fell quiet, every ear strained to catch the scientist's words. "The Empire has conquered countless worlds," Amina continued, "but Earth is different. Our biology, our adaptability, even our emotions, they see it as a threat to their order. They want to erase us because we don't fit into their vision of control." Jin, leaning against a nearby wall, frowned. "So it's not just about resources or territory?" "No," Amina replied. "It's deeper. Earth's unpredictable nature challenges their strict, sterile empire. They fear what humanity represents." Elena's jaw clenched. "So they're not just invaders, they're trying to wipe out who we are." "Exactly," Amina said. "We're more than a planet to them. We're a problem that must be solved." The weight of this revelation settled heavily over the group. It explained the merciless nature of the Imperial assault, the sudden, total destruction without negotiation or mercy. It was a purge. But it also offered a clue. If they fear our unpredictability, Marcus said slowly, maybe we can use that against them. Amina nodded. We've already seen how their technology, advanced as it is, isn't flawless. Our adaptability, our creativity and chaos might be their weakness. Elena stood, eyes shining with determination. Then we make sure they regret underestimating us. Outside, the world continued to suffer under the shadow of the fleet. Cities lay in ruins, but whispers of resistance grew louder. Across the continents, people found new courage, fueled by the knowledge that their existence was a threat to a tyrannical force. In a hidden workshop, engineers worked tirelessly to develop weapons and tools based on the alien technology Amina had studied. They modified captured devices, integrating human ingenuity with extraterrestrial science. Jin volunteered for dangerous missions to test these new weapons, flying close to the imperial ships despite the risks. Each success, no matter how small, was a victory that inspired the resistance. Meanwhile, the Empire's commander convened a council aboard the flagship. His eyes darkened as he reviewed reports of the Resistance's growing effectiveness. These humans are more resilient than expected, he admitted. Their defiance is rooted in something we do not control, their spirit. Another officer spoke coldly. Commander, should we escalate our tactics? Perhaps more direct destruction? The commander shook his head slowly. No, we must understand this spirit and find a way to break it. Total annihilation is simple, but it will not solve the problem if their will survives. Back on Earth, Elena addressed her people via a secure broadcast. Her voice carried through shattered cities and remote villages alike. We face an enemy, unlike any before, she said. But we carry within us something no technology can conquer. Our unpredictability, our compassion, our unity. These are our greatest weapons. The Empire thinks they can erase us, but they don't understand that we fight not just for survival, but for who we are. The message spread quickly, sparking hope and courage. That night, as the stars shimmered above, Earth was no longer just a planet on the brink of destruction. It was a symbol, a beacon of resistance, and humanity's indomitable spirit. The Empire's secret had been revealed. It feared the unpredictable power of life itself, and humanity was ready to prove that, even in the darkest void, hope could not be extinguished. The night was thick with tension as the Resistance prepared for their most daring operation yet. The plan was risky, but it carried the promise of a breakthrough, a chance to strike the Imperial fleet and turn the tide of a war that had so far seemed one-sided. Inside the command center, Elena stood over a holographic map, tracing the flight path of an Imperial scout ship that had crashed in a remote mountain range days earlier. The ship's wreckage was heavily guarded, but the Resistance had managed to infiltrate its perimeter. Jin Lee was preparing to lead the raid. His voice was calm, but charged with quiet determination. We hit hard and fast, he explained. We grab what we can from the wreck and get out before reinforcements arrive. Amina handed him a small device, one they had engineered using the stolen alien tech. This is our edge, she said. It emits a frequency that destabilizes their energy shields. It won't hold for long, but it's enough to give you an opening. The team assembled quickly, a mix of seasoned fighters and skilled engineers, united by the urgency of the moment. Outside, the world was still scarred, but every person involved in the operation knew this mission was more than a raid. It was a statement. Humanity was no longer waiting to be destroyed. It was fighting back. Jin's squad moved silently through the rugged terrain, shadows among the trees. The Imperial ship's hull gleamed faintly under the moonlight, surrounded by automated sentries and surveillance drones. The Resistance had learned to use guerrilla tactics, striking unseen, using the environment to their advantage. As they approached, the device Amina had given them activated with a low hum. Jin raised his arm and signaled the team. Now! Explosions erupted as the team disabled the sentries. Energy shields flickered and faltered under the pulse of the new weapon. Jin fired his rifle, aiming for control panels and power sources. The alien technology, usually impenetrable, began to crack. Inside the ship's command center, data terminals flickered to life. The Resistance quickly downloaded critical information, blueprints, weapon schematics, even troop movement schedules. "We've got it," Jin whispered over the comms. "Prepare for extraction." But the Empire was not caught off guard for long. Reinforcements arrived in rapid succession, and a fierce firefight broke out. The Resistance fought with everything they had. Every shot fired a promise that Earth would not bow. The sound of blaster fire echoed through the valley as the Resistance pushed back the attackers. Jin covered the retreat, holding off enemies, until the last member was safely away. Breathless and battered, they regrouped miles away, but their victory was clear. They had struck the Imperial fleet's armor and found a way in. Back at the command center, Elena and Amina analyzed the stolen data. The blueprints revealed weak points in the Imperial ship's shield generators and propulsion systems. This knowledge was invaluable. "This changes everything," Elena said. "We can build weapons that target these vulnerabilities." Word of the raid spread like wildfire, rekindling hope in the hearts of people everywhere. Even those who had lost everything found strength in the knowledge that humanity could fight back and win. Across the galaxy, whispers of Earth's resistance reached other worlds enslaved by the Empire. Some began to send secret support, supplies, intelligence, and quiet encouragement. But the Empire's commander was not pleased. "This resistance grows beyond expectation," he said to his officers. "They have found a way to exploit our technology. We must respond swiftly and decisively." Yet even as the Empire planned its counterattack, Earth's people were united like never before. The first victory was proof that the Empire was not invincible. Elena addressed the world once more, her voice steady and resolute. "We've taken the first step," she said. "The Empire believes it can erase us, but it underestimates the power of unity and ingenuity. This is our fight, and we will not back down." Outside, the sky was still dark with the shadow of the Imperial fleet. But beneath that shadow, humanity's fire burned brighter than ever. The first victory was only the beginning. The taste of victory was still fresh when the Empire responded, swift, brutal, and calculated. Their command ships unleashed a new wave of attacks, deploying weapons designed not just to destroy, but to intimidate and confuse. The skies above Earth became a tempest of fire and steel. Cities that had barely begun to recover from the first strike were pummeled again, this time with weapons that disrupted communications and scrambled sensors. The Resistance's networks flickered, momentarily blind. In the heart of the Resistance command center, Elena watched the incoming reports. "With a growing sense of urgency, they've adapted," she said grimly. "Their new weapons target our systems directly." Marcus, always practical, rubbed his beard and shook his head. "We need to stay flexible. They expect us to fight their way, but we have to change the game." Jin leaned over the table, tracing new routes for smaller, faster sorties. "We can't match their firepower, but we can be unpredictable. Hit and run, sabotage, ambush." Amina was already working on upgrades for their devices, blending human creativity with captured alien tech. "Their technology is complex, but it's not perfect. We'll find the gaps." The Empire's counterattack was relentless. Energy storms swept through battle zones, striking at supply lines and outposts. But the Resistance was learning fast. They shifted tactics, splitting into smaller cells that moved quickly and vanished like ghosts. In a narrow canyon on the outskirts of the Rockies, Jin led a team on a sabotage mission. Using the frequency disruptors Amina had perfected, they disabled a communications hub critical to the Imperial fleet's coordination. "Done," Jin whispered as the last device was planted. "Time to move." The explosion was precise and devastating, cutting off a segment of the fleet from its command. Imperial ships faltered, confused by the sudden silence. Back at the command center, Elena smiled for the first time in days. That's the way. Yet the Empire's commander was far from defeated. From the bridge of his flagship, he watched the unfolding chaos with a mix of frustration and grudging respect. These humans fight with something we cannot control, imagination and resilience, he said. It is time to escalate. The Empire unleashed a new weapon, autonomous drones designed to hunt resistance fighters relentlessly. These machines were faster, smarter, and harder to destroy. Entire squads vanished beneath their cold, mechanical precision. The resistance suffered losses. Safe havens were compromised. The weight of the Empire's might pressed down heavier than ever, but every setback only strengthened their resolve. In a hidden lab, Amina and her team raced against time, developing countermeasures to the drones. Their breakthroughs came from the most human of traits, creativity and improvisation. We'll use their own technology against them, Amina explained. By reprogramming captured drones, we can turn their weapons into shields. The first of these turned drones were sent into the field, providing cover and support for resistance fighters. It was a small victory, but one with enormous consequences. Across the globe, people watched as the tide began to shift once more. The Empire's overwhelming power was formidable, but Earth's defenders were growing smarter, faster, and more united. Elena's broadcasts grew bolder, rallying not just fighters but every citizen. "This is our home," she declared. "Their weapons may be strong, but our spirit is stronger. We will adapt. We will survive. We will win." The Empire's commander, watching the broadcasts in silence, understood the truth that was becoming clear to all. Earth was no longer just a target. It was a challenge, and humanity was rising to meet it. The war had stretched on longer than anyone expected. Months had passed since the Imperial fleet's sudden arrival, and the skies over Earth remained a battleground. Cities lay in ruins, but the resistance had grown stronger, more organized, and increasingly bold. In the underground command center, Elena Vasquez stood before a large, cracked window that looked out into a world scarred but unbroken. The faces around her showed the weariness of endless conflict, yet their eyes burned with a fierce determination. "We've fought hard, but the Empire's strength is still overwhelming," Elena began, addressing her closest advisors. "It's time for a new approach." Jin Lee stepped forward. "Our raids and sabotage have slowed them down, but we need something bigger, something that can cripple their fleet." Amina Okoro nodded. "I agree. The data we captured from the scout ship included schematics for their main power cores. If we can target those, we could disrupt their entire operation." Marcus folded his arms. "That's deep behind enemy lines. It's a near-suicide mission." Elena's gaze was steady. "But it's a mission we must attempt. If we don't, this war will drag on forever." Plans were made swiftly. A small team of the best fighters, including Jin, was selected for the strike. Their target, the Imperial flagship's power core, located deep within the heavily guarded ship orbiting high above Earth. On the day of the mission, tension was thick in the command center. Elena and Amina worked alongside engineers to ready the specialized equipment needed to penetrate the ship's defenses. Jin checked his gear, his usual calm replaced by a sharp focus. "This is for everyone who's lost something in this war," he said quietly to his teammates. The team boarded a small stealth shuttle designed to slip past the Imperial fleet's sensors. As the shuttle pierced the blackness of space, the enormity of their mission weighed on every soul aboard. Inside the Imperial flagship, the crew was unaware of the incoming threat. Their systems hummed smoothly, confident in the strength that had seemed unbreakable for so long. Jin's shuttle approached silently, cloaked in shadows. They landed on the ship's hull, using magnetic boots to climb into an access port Amina's team had located. The corridors were cold and sterile, filled with alien technology that glowed faintly. The team moved quickly, avoiding patrols and security systems with precision born from months of experience. As they neared the power core, alarms suddenly blared. The Empire had detected their presence. "Time to move faster," Jin urged, his voice steady despite the danger. Inside the core chamber, the team set explosives designed to disrupt the fusion reactors powering the ship. Amina's device interfaced with the alien controls, overriding safety protocols to ensure maximum damage. With seconds to spare, the team raced back through the corridors as the ship's security forces closed in. Explosions rocked the Imperial flagship, sending shockwaves through space. The power core destabilized, and systems began to fail one after another. The fleet above Earth shuddered. From the command center, Elena watched the fleet's signals flicker and falter. The massive ships that had once seemed invincible now wavered in their orbit. The Empire's commander's voice crackled over intercepted communications, filled with disbelief. "The flagship is compromised. Retreat and regroup." Jin's shuttle sped away as the flagship's self-defense systems erupted in chaos. They barely escaped the blast radius as the ship's core exploded in a brilliant flash, lighting up the dark void. Back on Earth, the resistance erupted in cheers. The tide had turned, but Elena knew the fight was far from over. "This victory is ours," she told her people. "But the Empire will come back harder. We must stay united and ready." The Empire's retreat marked a turning point, but it also revealed something more profound. Humanity's spirit was a force no technology could extinguish. Across the world, the message was clear. Earth would not fall, it would rise. The sky over Earth was quiet, yet the air pulsed with a tense anticipation. After the destruction of the Imperial flagship, the once overwhelming fleet had fractured. The Empire's forces withdrew, licking their wounds but vowing to return. For the first time in months, Earth's people could breathe, but the cost was clear. In the war room, deep beneath the shattered remains of what had been a city, Elena Vasquez stood before a worn map of the world. Scars marked every continent, areas ravaged by fire, bombed-out cities, and shattered infrastructure. Yet despite the devastation, lights flickered on in countless places. People were rebuilding, organizing, healing. Elena's voice was steady as she addressed the resistance leaders gathered around her. "We've survived the worst the Empire could throw at us. We've struck back and won a victory no one believed possible. But now, we face a choice." Marcus nodded, understanding the weight behind her words. "We can't just fight to survive anymore. We have to build a future." Amina, who had been quietly reviewing data, looked up. "The technology we captured, if we continue to study it, we can advance our own capabilities far beyond anything the Empire imagined." Jin stepped forward, his pilot's uniform still dusty and worn from the last mission. "And with those advances, we can protect Earth from any future threats." Outside, the sun rose higher, casting golden light on a world awakening from its darkest hour. In the months since the fleet's retreat, humanity had begun a transformation. Former enemies united to rebuild communities. Scientists and engineers collaborated on blending alien technology with human innovation. Military and civilian leaders worked together to create defenses strong enough to deter any future invasions. Elena walked through a rebuilt neighborhood, watching children play. In the streets, their laughter a sharp contrast to the memories of war. She smiled softly, knowing these moments were the true victories. At the command center, Amina presented a new project, an initiative to launch Earth's first deep space exploration mission. "We won't wait for threats to find us," she said. "We'll reach out, learn about the universe, and prepare." The resistance had become a beacon of hope, inspiring not just Earth, but other worlds still under the Empire's shadow. Secret allies reached out, sharing knowledge and resources. The Empire, battered but not destroyed, watched from afar. Its commander had been replaced, the old order shaken by Earth's unexpected resilience. In whispered halls, debates raged about how to deal with a species that refused to be controlled. Back on Earth, Elena stood before a crowd gathered for the announcement of a new alliance. A coalition of nations and communities committed to peace, defense, and exploration. Her voice rang clear and strong. "We have faced the darkness and found our light. We are not just survivors. We are pioneers of a new era. Together, we will protect our home, embrace the unknown, and shape a future where no force can silence our spirit." The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices united in hope. As the sun set, painting the sky with colors of promise, Elena looked up at the stars. Once a symbol of fear, now a horizon of opportunity. Earth had been tested by fire, but it emerged, stronger, forged by struggle and united by hope. The Empire had sent a fleet to destroy Earth with no warning, no mercy, only total annihilation. But Earth survived, and now Earth would rise.